We are recording. I can edit this so it don't even matter. Again, for the like this. Okay, so chapter 4 is going to be on infection control principles and practices. This chapter is very important as we're in the COVID-19 era right now. It's important that you know how to properly, maintain your tools and equipment and implements, proper sterilization, and being able to keep yourself and your clients protected from infections and disease. We're going to start on page 56, and we're going to read the introduction, I meant to say, and we're going to be talking about all those different things and how the state boards and all these entities try to keep these regulations in place to protect the public. So, under introduction on page 56, state barber boards and other regulatory agencies require that infection control measures and safe work practices be applied while serving the public. Infection control measures help minimize the spread of contagious diseases from one individual to another. Since transmission can also occur when using contaminated implements, tools, or equipment, the performance of effective infection control procedures must be a top priority in the barbershop. Safe work practices require that implements, tools, and equipment be used safely and that you be aware of situations that can cause accidents in the barbershop. This chapter provides some helpful guidelines to minimize potential risks and accidents. It is your responsibility as a professional barber to use proper and effective infection control methods that help safeguard your health and the health of your clients. You are also responsible for employing safe work practices to help prevent accidents and injuries from occurring in the workplace. I'm going down to under meet the current regulations for health and safety. Under LO1, many federal and state agencies regulate the practice of barbering. Federal agencies set guidelines for the manufacturing, sale, and use of equipment and chemical ingredients. These guidelines also monitor safety in the workplace and place limits on the types of services you can perform in a barber or styling shop. State agencies regulate licensing, enforcement, and your conduct when you are working in the shop. Federal agencies. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, was created as part of the U.S. Department of Labor to regulate and enforce safety and health standards to protect employees in the workplace. Regulating employee exposure to potentially toxic substances and informing employees about the possible hazards of materials used in the workplace are key points of the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. This regulation created the Hazard Communication Standard, which requires the chemical manufacturers and importers access and communicate the potential hazards associated with their products. The Material Safety Data Sheet was a result of the HCS. In 2012, along with representatives from most of the nations in the United Nations, OSHA agreed to comply with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemical systems, GHS. This initiative was designed to create label standards to be used around the globe and includes the use of specific pictograms to indicate possible safety concerns. The initiative also includes the adoption of a 16-category standard format safety data sheet to replace the MSDS. The HCS Act in 1983 gave workers the right to know, but the new GHS gives workers the right to understand. The standards set by OSHA are important to barbers because of the products they use daily. OSHA standards address issues relating to the handling, mixing, storing, and disposing of products, general safety in the workplace, and your right to know about any potentially hazardous ingredients contained in the products and how to avoid these hazards. Barbers should view OSHA as an agency designed to ensure a safe workplace for all U.S. workers. Safety data sheets replace material safety data sheets. Both federal and state laws require that manufacturers supply a safety data sheet All SDSs will be organized identically and will contain the following 16 categories of information. I'm not gonna read them all, I'm just gonna read the names. Identification, hazard identification, composition information on ingredients, first aid measures, firefighting measures, accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure controls, personal protection, physical and chemical properties, stability and reactivity, toxicology information, ecological information, disposal consideration, transport information, regulatory information, and revision date. In addition, pictograms that are intentionally recognized are used to ensure that information being communicated in easily recognizable formats. When necessary, the SDS can be sent to a medical facility so that a doctor can better access and treat the patient. Not having SDS information available poses a health risk to anyone exposed to hazardous materials and violates federal and state regulations. OSHA and state regulatory agencies require that SDSs be kept available in the shop for all products used or sold. Both OSHA and state board inspectors can issue fines to establishments not having SDSs readily available. Federal and state laws require barbers to obtain SDSs from the chemical products manufacturers and/or distributors for each professional product they use. SDSs often can be downloaded from the product manufacturer's or distributor's website. All workers in the barbershop must read the information included on each SDS and verify that they have read it by adding their signatures to a sign-off sheet for the product. All states require that sign-off sheets must be immediately available to state and federal inspectors upon request. Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as the EPA. The EPA registers all types of disinfectants sold and used in the United States. Disinfectants are chemical products that destroy most bacteria, fungi, and viruses on surfaces. The two types that are used in the barbershop are hospital disinfectants and tuberculosidal disinfectant. That's a tongue twister. Hospital disinfectants are effective for cleaning blood and bodily fluids from non-porous surfaces. By non-porous surfaces, we mean an item that are made or constructed of material that has no pores or openings and that cannot absorb liquids. Hospital disinfectants control the spread of disease. Disease is defined as an abnormal condition of all or part of the body, its systems, or its organs that make the body incapable of carrying on normal functions. The most commonly used disinfectants are the following. Y'all gonna need to remember these. Quaternary ammonium compounds, commonly known as quats. Yes, you need to know that. Are products made of quaternary ammonium cations that are designed for disinfection of non-porous surfaces. They are appropriate for use in non-critical, non-invasive environments and are effective against most pathogens of concern in the barbering environment. Here we go again. Tuberculosidal, I got it right that time, disinfectants, often referred to as phenolics, y'all need to know this now, are proven to kill the bacterium that causes tuberculosis, in addition to other pathogens destroyed through the use of hospital disinfectants. Tuberculosis is a disease caused by a bacterium that is transmitted through coughing or sneezing. It is passed through inhalation only and is not transmitted by the hands or picked up on surfaces.
Highlight all of it.
Yes. Tuberculosidal disinfectants are one kind of hospital disinfectants. However, because these disinfectants are effective against the pathogen does not mean that you should automatically reach for them. Some of these products can be harmful to tools and equipment, and they require special methods of disposal. Check the rules of your state and to be sure that the product you choose complies with state requirements. Most pathogens of concern in the barbershop are adequately destroyed by standard EPA registered disinfectants and do not require tuberculocidal disinfectants. However, some states do require tuberculocidal disinfectants, so always check the rules of your state to be sure the product complies with state requirements. There are also some states that require tuberculocidal disinfectants only when blood contamination has occurred. In these states, you should keep a tuberculocidal disinfectant readily available, but you should use it only when required. It is against federal law to use any disinfecting product in a way contrary to the use indicated on its label. Before a manufacturer can sell a product for disinfecting surfaces, tools, implements, or equipment, they must obtain an EPA registration number that certifies that the disinfectant, when used correctly, will be effective against the pathogens listed on the label. For example, clipper disinfectants must be approved by the EPA for use with clippers in specific environments, such as a barbershop, or the manufacturer would be breaking federal law by marketing them as clipper disinfectants to a barber market. This also means that you do not follow the label instructions for mixing, contact time, and that if you do not, and the type of surface the disinfectant product can be used on, you are not complying with federal law. If there were any injury-related lawsuit, you could be held responsible. State regulatory agencies. State regulatory agencies, such as our barber board, exist to protect barbers and their customers' health and safety while they receive services. State regulatory agencies include licensing agencies, state barber boards, commissions, and health departments. Regulatory agencies require that everyone working on consumers in a barbershop follows specific procedures. Enforcement of the rules through inspections and investigations of consumer complaints is also part of an agency's responsibility. An agency can issue penalties against both the shop's owner and the barber's licenses. Penalties vary and include warnings, fines, probations, and suspension or revocation of licenses. It is vital that you understand the following laws and rules of your state at all times. Your professional reputations, your license, and your client's safety depend on it.
So you can get your barber license revoked too?
Yes, sir. That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna stop right there and talk about it for a minute. You can get fined. Like if there are inspectors that come around to barbershops and in all places, schools, whatever, and if you are not in compliance with the health and safety standards of what our state requires, yes, you can be issued a fine. If you don't, like for instance, when I can't talk about it on tape. I've seen barbers that didn't have their license renewed, and they were cutting hair with expired barber's license, because once you graduate and get your license or whatever, it don't matter if you've been cutting hair 10 years, 20 years, every year you have to renew your license. And I've seen barbers that didn't have their license renewed, and there are barbers working in shops that don't have license. But if an inspector or someone were to come in that shop and see them working without license, or if you have your license expired, they can write you a $300 fine, just like that. Yes, and you won't be allowed to cut hair anymore. I've seen with my own eyes someone have to close their shop because their shop license had expired, and you can't operate on a shop license that's expired. You just can't, because every year you have to renew your shop license, just like you renew your your driver's license. Well, like your taxes on your car. You have to pay that annual fee. Just like every year with this school, I have to renew my license every year. I have to send in money to Raleigh to get my license renewed. And if I were to not send my money in, and we're operating with my license expired, number one, an inspector or somebody could come, even though I'm a board member, that doesn't matter. They could come in here. If somebody were to report me, they could say, okay, David, look, school, they gonna tell y'all school's closed. He's closed instantly, right then. Everybody's got to leave, and I cannot operate until I get my license brought back up to current, because that's just a state rule. You have to keep your license and everything renewed, and not just that, you have to operate, if that's Kevin, Tim, I'll be with you. If you have to operate in a with cleanliness matters. Okay. Now, laws and rules, what is the difference? Laws are written by both federal and state legislatures and determine the scope of practice, what each license allows the holder to do, and establish guidelines for regulatory agencies to make rules. Laws are also called statutes. Rules and regulations are more specific than laws. The regulatory agency or state board writes the rules and determines how the law must be applied. Rules establish specific, was that him?
Man.
Okay. Rules establish specific standards of conduct and can be changed or updated frequently. It is the barber's responsibility to be aware of any changes to the rules and regulations and to comply with them. Ignorance of the law is not acceptable. It's not an acceptable reason for excuse of non-compliance. And that's what I mean by, like, me being a member of the state board, us as a board, we set the rules and regulations of the barbering industry. And once we set these rules, we determine what the penalties will be and how barber schools, barber shops, everyone must conduct in within our rule or laws, which we call statutes. And that's what I was gonna be handing y'all is some of the statutes, statutes 86A, which is about shop licensing and all these other things, because this is gonna be on your state board test when you go to Raleigh. So I will make sure that y'all get a copy of it. Actually, no. I downloaded it actually to the Google Classroom. So yes, you can look on your Google Classroom. I forgot I already downloaded it. Okay, understanding principles of infection. Being a barber professional is not only rewarding, it is also a great responsibility. One careless action can cause injury or infection, which is the invasion of body tissues by disease-causing pathogens. If your actions result in a client's injury or infection, you can lose your license or ruin the shop's reputation. Fortunately, preventing the spread of infections is easy when you know proper procedures and follow them at all times. Prevention begins and ends with you. Effective infection control in the barbershop also influences the professional image of the establishment. A client's first impression of the shop begins the moment they open the door. So a clean environment should extend beyond each barber's immediate work area. All the sights, sounds, smells, and general ambience of the barbershop meld together to form this first impression. Regardless of how many times a client has previously visited the shop, in essence, this first impression happens over and over again because clients do not see you or the shop daily. A clean and orderly barbershop helps build client confidence and trust that continuous care is being taken to provide a safe and sanitary environment in which to receive their personal services. I want to stop right there and talk about something for a minute. I don't know how many barbershops you all have been in. There are some nasty barbershops out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know it.
I myself and Mr. Floyd, I've been in his shop. His shop, he keeps his shop clean. It's in order. I try to keep my shop clean, my school clean, as y'all can see. We're both about cleanliness and keeping our places sanitized so we don't have the spread of infection, and so that clients, and not just clients, so you students, so his employees, so my employees feel safe working there, and that they all know that we're doing the best that we can do to keep you in a safe environment. And that falls on the owner. And not only does it fall on the owner, now if you're working in Mr. Floyd's shop, yes, his shop is clean. It's very, very clean. But if you're a barber and if your station is messy, the client will see that and realize that. Because yes, people will come in his place, they'll come in my place, oh man, you keep a clean place, this is good. But if they come to you and your station is a mess, you got hair everywhere, and this and that, that can still cost you a client. And that's why, you know, we both.
Also, too, if they don't see you spraying your clippers off and stuff, people
Yes,
say
sir. Yes, sir. And that's why I purposely, and I want y'all to practice that as well. If you drop something, if like if you drop a guard, if you drop a cone, I purposely turn my client so my client can see me putting that cone or that guard in my barber side. And I purposely turn my client around so they can see me spray my clippers off. Because it's good to have them see that. Because they need to know that you're doing everything that you can to keep them from getting any type of infection. Because the worst thing that can happen to you, and people will put this on you as barbers. It's happened to everybody. If somebody gets a ringworm in their head, if they've been to your shop within the last 6 months, they ain't been there in 6 months, they gonna swear they got it from you.
Yeah.
What does ringworm look like?
Actually, yeah, it's in this chapter, as a matter of fact. Like, or not just, if they get any type of, if they get just a hair bump in their head, they gonna, you know, they're gonna swear it came from you. Because see, now what clients would do is, now they'll have you cut their hair this week, next week they'll go to some other barber who's not as clean, or they'll get their hair cut by some home barber who doesn't have anything remotely clean. And then they'll come back to you the next week, but then that ringworm or that fungus don't show up until two weeks after that, and then they're gonna be blaming you for it. So, you know, that's why it's also important for your clients to see you doing this, so your clients will know that you keep your tools, your implements, your station, and the shop clean at all times.
There's a lot of heads in here. Do you ever have like, not in here, but in like a barber shop, how often do you see like parasites? And like little bugs in your head?
Not that often. Not that often.
Lice?
Yeah,
I seen it one time.
yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I probably seen it twice because, like with
It's a lot of hair
horse
laying
hair
on the floor though. Like, where does it come from?
they can get it from pets.
Now this came out this dude's head, and I told her, I said, look, you gotta stop right now.
Oh, he's coming back
Throw
here.
everything away. Throw everything away.
Yeah.
He's back here.
Huh?
He's coming back here.
Okay. But yeah, you can get like some pets. It can spread from other people, and yeah, it can come from various places. Push pause right there. Okay. The rest of this chapter will now be narrated by the students. All right, y'all go right ahead. We're gonna start with Saya.
Are we just reading paragraphs or going to the next verse?
Nah, not paragraph, just read to you. Get tagged. Alright, go ahead, James.
Infection control. Infection control refers to the methods used to eliminate or reduce the transmission of infectious organisms. Barbers must understand and remember the following 4 types of potentially harmful organisms.
Make sure y'all highlight those 4.
Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Under certain conditions, many of these organisms can cause infectious diseases. An infectious disease is caused by a pathogenic, harmful organism that enter the body. An infectious disease, however, may or may not be spread from one person to another depending on the organism and its method of transmission. In this chapter, you will learn how to properly clean and disinfect the tools and equipment you use so they are safe for you and your customers. Cleaning is a mechanical process, scrubbing, using soap and water or detergent and water to remove all visible dirt, debris, and many disease-causing germs from tools, implements, and equipment.
Make sure y'all highlight it.
The process of disinfection involves the use of a chemical to destroy most, but not necessarily all harmful organisms on environmental surfaces. Disinfection is not effective against bacterial spores. which are bacteria capable of producing a protective coating that allows them to withstand very harsh environments and to shed the coating when conditions become more favorable to them. Cleaning and disinfecting procedures are designed to prevent the spread of infection and disease. At minimum, disinfectants used in barbershops must be bactericidal, capable of destroying bacteria, virucidal, capable of destroying viruses, and fungicidal, capable of destroying molds and fungi.
I like those three. And know the difference.
Remember, in some states, disinfectants must also be effective against tuberculosis. Check your state board rules and regulations for compliance information. Be sure to mix and use these disinfectants according to the instructions on the labels so they are safe and effective. Contaminated tools and equipment can spread infections between customers if proper disinfection steps are not taken after every service. You have a professional and legal obligation to protect your clients from harm by using proper infection control procedures. If clients are infected or harmed because you did not perform infection control procedures correctly, you may be found legally responsible for their injuries or infections.
Now y'all know people can't sue you if they get something.
Do what now?
People can sue you if they get something.
But don't they have
They
to
can
prove
really
they
see.
got it from you?
Yeah, but they can go after you.
Anybody charge you?
Yeah, did you not forget?
No, ain't nobody tried me, no. She reported state court, she ain't sued me.
Oh, okay.
What you trying to report you for?
I had,
Yeah. Oh, my fault. My bad.
Back to you. That was quick. Somebody else wanna read?
you gonna do bacteria?
Get that red Kool-Aid man. Got that red Kool-Aid.
Bacteria are single-celled microorganisms that have both plant and animal characteristics. A microorganism is any organism of microscopic or submicroscopic size. Some bacteria are harmful and some are harmless. Bacteria can exist almost anywhere, on skin, in water, in the air, in decayed matter, on environmental surfaces, in body secretions, on clothing, or under the free edge of nails. Bacteria are so small they can only be seen with a microscope.
Highlight all that.
There are thousands of different kinds of bacteria, which fall into two primary types, pathogenic and non-pathogenic. Most bacteria are non-pathogenic. In other words, they are harmless organisms that may perform useful functions. They are safe to come into contact with since they do not cause disease or harm. For example, non-pathogenic organisms are used to make yogurt, cheese, and some medicines. In the human body, non-pathogenic bacteria help the body break down food, protect against infection, and stimulate the immune system. Pathogenic bacteria are harmful microorganisms that can cause disease or infection in humans when they invade the body. Shops and schools must maintain strict standards for cleaning and disinfecting at all times to prevent the spread of pathogenic microorganisms. It is crucial that students learn proper infection control practices while in school to ensure that they understand the importance of following them throughout their career. Table 41 presents terms and definitions related to the pathogens.
Alright, so know the difference between the non-pathogenic and the pathogenic. So your non-pathogenic is gonna be your good bacteria, and the pathogenic is gonna be bad. So make sure you write on the side of it, good, bad, so you know the difference. Cause that will be on the test. I'm gonna do a classification for pathogenic bacteria.
Bacteria have three distinct shapes that help identify them. Pathogenic bacteria are classified as described below. Coatesy are round-shaped bacteria that appear single or in groups. Staphylococcus are pus-forming bacteria that grow in clusters like bunches of grapes. They cause abscesses, pustules, and boils. Some types of staphylococci, or staph, as many call it, may not cause infections in healthy animals, although others may be deadly.
Y'all done heard of staph? People have staph
That's like
infection.
strep throat, ain't it? A staph
No.
infection.
I thought that was like
Nah,
a
that's
side
the next
eye or
That's
something.
the next one.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, got you.
yeah, staph infection.
Alright, strep are pus-forming, we just call it strep. Strep are pus-forming bacteria arranged in curved lines resembling a string of beads. They cause infections such as strep throat and blood poisoning. Diplococcus are spherical bacteria that grow in pairs and cause diseases such as pneumonia. Bacilli are short rod-shaped bacteria that are most common bacteria and produce diseases such as tetanus, typhoid fever, tuberculosis, and diphtheria. Spirilla are spiral or corkscrew-shaped bacteria. They are subdivided into subgroups such as, y'all see it, which causes syphilis.
Y'all see it.
Which causes syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease, and Borrelia burgdorferi, which causes Lyme disease.
Alright, so know the different forms of bacteria. You got one that's the short rod shape, and you have the spiral. The spiral, so no difference. Zake, I'm gonna take over vice man.
Movement of bacteria. Different bacteria move in different ways. The term motility, y'all see, motility
Motility now.
refers to self-movement. Cocci rarely demonstrate self-movement and are generally transmitted in the air and dust or within the substance in which they settle.
Highlight that.
This and Spirilla are both capable of movement and use slender air-like extensions called flagella for locomotion. You may also hear people refer to Scilla in reference to cell movement, but they are much shorter than regular bacteria required relatively many more cilia to ensure cell movement. Both flagella and cilia move cells, but they have different types of motion. Bacteria with flagella move in snake-like motion, while those with cells move in rolling-like motion. Bacteria growth, reproduction. When seen under a microscope, bacteria look like tiny bags. They generally consist of outer cell walls that contain a liquid called protoplasm.
Highlight that.
Bacteria cells manufacture their own food through their absorbed from surrounding environment. They give off waste products to grow and reproduce. The life cycle environment, they give off waste products, grows and reproduce. The life cycle of bacteria consists of two distinct phases, an active stage and inactive stage. Active stage. During the active stage, bacteria grows and reproduce. Bacteria multiply best in warm, dark, damp, or dirty places. When conditions are favorable, bacteria grow and reproduce. When they reach their largest size, they divide into two new cells. The division is called binary fission. The cells that are formed as a result of binary fission are called daughter cells and are produced every 20 to 60 minutes.
I like that. 20 to 60 minutes. Really gonna need to know that whole active stage, but that 20 to 60 minutes is definitely gonna be key.
Depending on the bacteria. For example, the infectious pathogen Staphylococcus aureus undergoes cell division every 27 to 30 minutes. When conditions become unfavorable bacteria either die or become inactive. Inactive stage, certain bacteria such as bacteria that causes tenuous and botulism, among others, can form spores by coating them cells with wax-like outer shells during the unfavorable condition. These spores protect the bacteria and enable them to withstand long periods of famine. Dryness and unsuitable temperature. In this condition, spores can be blown about and are not harmed by disinfect, heat, or cold. If favorable conditions such as moist environment returns, the spores can change into active form and begin to grow and reproduce. Bacteria infections. There can be no bacteria infections without the presence of pathogenic bacteria. Therefore, pathogenic bacteria are eliminated. Plants cannot become infected. And inflammation, the condition in which tissue of the body reacts to injury, irritation, or infection. And inflammation is characterized by redness, heat, pain, and or swelling.
I like that. Jess, you wanna read?
Not really, to be honest.
You want, okay. You want me
You said we're highlighting the inflammation part? Highlighting the inflammation?
Yes,
Says, pus is a fluid containing white blood cells, bacteria, dead cells, and is the byproduct of infectious, and is the byproduct of the infectious process. The presence of pus is a sign of a bacterial infection. A local infection, such as pimple or abscess, is confined to a particular part of the body and appears as a lesion containing pus. A systematic infection is an infection where the pathogen has distributed throughout the body rather than staying in one area or organ.
okay, make sure y'all highlight that.
Local
The
infection.
presence of pus is a sign of bacterial infection.
Okay.
And local infection, such as pimples or abscess, I like that.
I have a question. Like, okay, you know how like some people have like really bad acne, like to the point where it's like everywhere, and I forget exactly what it's called, but like say someone has a beard, but they have like really bad acne like that. How do you handle that situation?
What do you mean?
Cause like obviously if you go over with the razor or even with your trimmers or whatever, like it's gonna open up the pimple.
Yeah, you got the option to decline it. Like, you don't have to do the service.
But I'm saying like, you don't want to turn nobody away because they have an acne problem. It's gonna make them feel bad about themselves.
No, but if you feel like you're gonna catch something, spread something, you don't. Cause I mean, you still having to touch them yourself.
Yeah.
Especially like if you use the razor, and like you see that, nah, I ain't doing it. Nah. Maybe a hair bump, you know, go over, but for us, they got acne and it's like.
But I'm talking about like the severe acne. It's like I forget what
Like
it's
in the
called.
picture right here.
No, we got it.
Acne customer service.
I would just
Would
be
I?
scared of
Yeah.
her.
I'd cut his hair, but I wouldn't do his beard.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what
You
I
can,
tell
yeah,
them.
you can do that.
I'm gonna
But
make
yeah,
some money
this-
still.
All that's in here too. We're gonna get all that.
Staphylococcus are among the most common bacteria that affect humans and are commonly found in our environment, including on our bodies, all through most strands. Although most strands do not make us ill. Staph bacteria can be picked up on doorknobs, countertops, and other surfaces, but in barbershops, they are more frequently spread through skin-to-skin contact,
Highlight.
such as shaking hands. or through the use of unclean tools or implements, and can be very dangerous. Staph is responsible for food poisoning and a wide range of diseases, including toxic shock syndrome. Some types of infectious staph bacteria are highly resistant to conventional treatments such as antibiotics. An example is a staph infection called methicillin.
Methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
There you go. Historically, MRSA occurs most commonly among people with weakened immune systems or among people who had undergone medical procedures. Today, it has become among people who are most common in otherwise healthy people. Clients who appear commonly completely healthy and may bring this organism into the shop, where it can infect others. Some people carry the bacteria and are not even aware of their infection, but the people they infect may show more obvious symptoms. MRSA initially appears as a skin infection, presenting as pimples, rashes, or boils that can appear on the skin as infection, presenting, skin boils that can be difficult to cure. Without proper treatment, the infection becomes systemic and can have devastating consequences that can result in death. Because of these highly resistant bacterial strains, it is important to clean and disinfect all these highly resistant bacterial strands. Oh, damn it. Disinfect all tools and implements used on customers. Also, do not perform services if the client's skin, scalp, or neck shows visible signs or abrasions.
You said that,
abrasion or infection.
They answer your question?
Yeah.
When a disease spread from one person to another, the disease is said to be a contagious disease, also known as communicable disease.
Highlight.
Some of the more common contagious diseases that prevent a barber from servicing a client are the common cold, ringworm, conjunctivitis, pink eye, and viral infection.
So if y'all see somebody with the all money ain't good money.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm just
So
saying,
what if they
all
got
money-
like a spot, there's one area in their hair where it just look infected? Don't do the whole head, you tell them you can't cut it.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's how you know there's not another
yeah.
spot where you can't see.
Yeah.
I had one dude come like
You don't wanna mess around and ruin your reputation.
I'm saying though, how can you can't necessarily see all of those though. Like if their hair is, let's say they had a fro, like how do you even know?
Now once you start,
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That
And I mean,
is tough.
it's times where I done seen this like, oh man, you got a wingworm, but you done cut it down. I mean, you just let the parents know, aware of what's going on, and I
Now, how
finish
do you
up and
clean
make
your
sure you
tools after
sanitize
that?
everything real good.
So after if you do that, do you barb aside the clippers that you use?
Everything. Yeah.
So like even if it don't matter who in the shop, whatever, like you gotta explain that to them. Like, look, you gotta wait. I gotta let this.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, if you got two people in there, 2 or 3 people, and you gotta explain that to them that just happened. You know, they've probably seen it. Like the process that you have to take in order to keep them safe.
Yeah.
You gotta explain that to them.
Yeah. I mean, cause you educating the other clients, and they seeing that you taking proper safety measures to make sure that they good.
It's tough.
The most common way these infections spread is through dirty hands, especially under the fingernail and in the webs between the fingers. Be sure to always wash your hands after using the restroom and before eating. Contagious diseases can also be spread by contaminated implements, cuts, infected nails, open sores, pus, mouth, and nose discharge. Shared drinking cups, telephone receivers, and towels. Uncovered cough or sneezing and spitting in public also spread germs. Said, table 4.2 list, terms and definitions that are important for the general understanding of disease.
Now it's sad when you have to tell grown people to wash their hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. And that's how everything was spread, even with COVID. Yeah.
Where we, Barry?
Take your part, take your part. Wait, I know I need the head up, Buzz. Like being disrespectful.
You said viruses?
Yes, sir.
A virus is a submicroscopic particle that infects and resides in the cells of biological organisms.
Highlight.
A virus is capable of replication only through taking over the host cell's reproductive function. Viruses are so small that they can only be seen under the most sophisticated and powerful microscopes. They cause common colds and other respiratory and gastrointestinal digestive tract infections. Some of the viruses that plague humans are measles, mumps, chickenpox, smallpox, rabies, yellow fever, hepatitis, polio, influenza, and HIV, which causes AIDS. One difference between viruses and bacteria is that viruses can live and reproduce only by taking over the other cells and becoming part of them. While bacteria can live and reproduce on their own.
I like that. One difference between viruses and bacteria. You're gonna need to know that. Viruses can live and reproduce only by taking over other cells and becoming part of them, while bacteria can live and reproduce on their own.
Another difference is that while bacterial infections can usually be treated with specific antibiotics, viral infections cannot, and viruses are hard to kill without harming the host cells in the process. When available, vaccinations can prevent viruses from growing in the body. There are many vaccines available for viruses, but not all viruses are vaccines. There are vaccines?
Viruses have vaccines.
Oh, okay, I thought it was something available for hepatitis B and varicella.
Yeah.
The virus that causes shingles, and you should strongly consider receiving these vaccines, as well as vaccines for the seasonal flu and pneumonia.
Biofilms.
Biofilms are colonies of microorganisms that adhere to the environmental surfaces as well as the human body. They secrete a sticky, hard to penetrate protective coating that cements them together.
I like it.
The biofilm grows into a complex structure with many kinds of microbes. The sticky matrix substance holds communities together, making them very hard to pierce with antisepsis, antimicrobials, and disinfection. It keeps the body in a chronic inflammatory state that is painful and inhibits healing. One action of the biofilm community is to resist the body's defense mechanism. We are learning that biofilms play a large role in the disease and infection. Biofilms are usually not visible and must grow very large to be seen without a microscope. Dental plaque is an example of a visible human biofilm. Numerous persistent infections, including periodontal disease, osteomyelitis, cystic fibrosis, otitis media, conjunctivitis, prostatitis, endocarditis, urinary catheter infections, contact lens and corneal infections, and infections associated with medical devices and surgical and sterile instruments are associated with biofilms that are not visible.
Highlight that. All that he just said.
Algae colonies and ponds and slime and drains are examples of environmental biofilms. Because biofilms are hard to detect, their presence and effects seem to be underestimated. They are one of the most significant scientific discoveries of the past few decades, though we have much more to learn. Consciously using infectious control precautions, including standard precautions, cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization is the best method of prevention at the present time.
Highlight that.